Just because it is good doesn't mean it is God's will. Just because it is good doesn't mean it is God's will. You should write that down. I don't know if anyone's coined that, but hopefully they did. That would be my quote. But just because it's good doesn't mean it's God's will. And I've had to learn this many times. And what I mean by that is, yes, sharing the gospel is a good thing. None of you can say that sharing the gospel is a bad thing, right? It's like the fruit of the Spirit. Joy, peace, patience, kindness. It says, against these things what? There is no law, right? No one can say that pursuing peace is a bad thing, right? So again, sharing the gospel, reaching someone with the word of God is a good thing, will always be a good thing, but it doesn't mean that when you want to do it and where you want to do it is God's will. Just like helping someone in need is a good thing, but it doesn't mean that it's God's will for you to do that. Last night I was driving home from church, and there was a guy that was pulled to the side of the road, and I don't know, he was looking at the side of his car. I don't know if he had a flat tire. Later on I saw a deer on the side of the road, so I don't know if he hit the deer or whatnot. But there was one of the moments, it was late at night, it was past 10 o'clock, and I thought to myself, you know what, maybe I should pull over and help this guy. And I kept thinking, no, but I want to get home to my wife and my family, and I've been out, and so it's one of those moments where it would have been a good thing to help that person, but I prayed about it, and I felt a lot of peace about going home to be with my family. So just because it's good doesn't mean it's God's will, and I believe I made the right choice. We need to understand that as we make decisions in our life. Number one, if it's a bad thing, it is never God's will. Okay, let's make that clear. If it's a bad thing, it's never God's will. But if it's a good thing, it doesn't always mean that it's God's will. We need to pray that God will give us discernment so that we would know what the right thing to do is. And I can just give you example after example. How many times are you driving around and there's someone asking for money? On the side of the road, the corner of 202 or somewhere. Not everyone that's asking for money is asking for a good reason, right? Not everyone that's asking for money is doing it for the right reason. Let me share you a funny story about that. To give you a little bit of humor here. So when I was a kid, I never forget, we were on the mission field, and there was a man who was asking for money, and he was crippled. He said he was crippled, that he couldn't walk, and so he needed money to get food. And so my dad, I was about 14 years old. So my dad goes up to the guy and says, "Oh, so you can't walk?" He's like, "Yeah, I can't walk, and this has been for most of my life, and can you please help me with $1?" And then my dad says to me, he says, "Watch this. Let's see if this is true." So my dad takes his little hat with all the money, and my dad starts running down the street. The guy got up and ran after my dad faster than anyone would.
It's a miracle.
Right? And so he caught up with my dad, and my dad's like, "If you're going to ask for money, at least change your story." Right? What's the point of the story is that not everyone that's asking for money is asking for the right reasons. Not everything that's good is God's will, and we have to have the discernment to be able to see what the Lord wants us to do, even when it comes to giving to people. Giving is always good. The Bible talks about giving, but not everyone deserves to be given to. Right? So remember that lesson as well.